So today is going to be a very, very important lesson. It's about loops. If you've done CS before, you should know what they are. But yeah, they're very powerful, and you kind of need to know them for Python. So hopefully, like 1 or 2 people join. I don't know where everybody else is at, but yeah. Fruit Loops. It's actually Python loops. It's a little less tasty, but still loops. Where did Tyler go?
Did Tyler leave?
No, Tyler didn't even join. Or Aiden. Or Emil. All these people are not here. Must be busy or something. Or they're sleeping or yeah, I don't really know. We'll go ahead and start at 3:03 if not enough people join. Or 3:04 actually.
3:05.
Nah, that's too late. 3:04. Oh my gosh. Are you serious? Where did everybody else go? We should have maybe 2 or 3 more people, but they're all gone. Oh wait, Aiden said he can't join, so that's one less person. And then who else? There's Tyler and Emil. Yeah, Tyler and Emil. Don't know where they're at. Oh, it's 3:04. Would you look at that? Okay. All right, let's start. We don't have that many people, but it's okay. Hopefully, some people join mid-session. But yeah, today we're gonna learn about loops in Python or general programming languages. It's a pretty important concept. I would argue it's probably the most important concept of programming, because programmers are lazy and they like to iterate stuff and not write a lot of code. So these are loops. It might be a little complicated because it is, after all, like a new concept for some of you people. But if you have already done coding, it's not that hard. But the syntax is always different. So we're gonna go ahead and start. Oh, wrong one. There you go. Eric, it's your slide.
Oh, what?
It's your slide.
Wait a sec.
Sorry. Eric's having technical difficulties.
Alright, so our agenda for today. Wait a sec.
Oh my god.
Well, we're gonna have a brief review of what we did last class, and then we're gonna introduce loops. Like the 2 types of loops there are in Python are for and while loops, and then we're gonna talk about them. And then there's also a break and continue concept that we're gonna teach you guys.
That was very fast. Alright, we're gonna move on. So, review. So last time we learned about how to use lists, and hopefully you guys remember, because we sent out homeworks and projects that only 3 of you guys did, but it's okay. Hopefully more of you guys do your homeworks and projects, because we highly encourage you to do that, because that's the only way you get better at Python, if I'm being honest. Yeah, so this is how you declare a list. Just set a variable name or list name equals 2 brackets. And again, if you want to initialize, you just write numbers or strings or whatever in there, separated by commas. And then can some people maybe tell me a practical use of lists in the chat, like, why would lists be ever useful in like a practical programming situation? Even though you might not know like how you might execute it per se, but like when it will ever be useful. Any like examples in the chat, please participate so we don't wait here for like 5 hours. And we're gonna try to get this done in an hour, so hopefully people, answer and hurry up. So, any ideas on where loops will be used in real life? No ideas? Disappointing. Alright, well, I mean, there are a lot of uses of lists, so I think a lot of times when repeating a general action, that's loops, not lists. Like lists, as in like thing we learned last time. Yeah, it's fine. So, yeah. My pronunciation isn't the best, but lists, you can use them in a lot of applications. Like you can have it so like it stores your data, or a lot of competitive programming uses it. And if you're gonna do data analysis, sometimes it's convenient to have like smaller data and lists and stuff. And yeah, lists are very convenient. Use them a lot in like programming in general. And also, Eric, can you make sure like if people ask to join you, let them in, like because there might be people who don't here. So yeah. List indices, we learned about the last time too. The position of an element within a list, that's what a list index is. So remember, Python is zero index, which means it starts at 0. The list starts at 0. So if I have a list like A, B, C, D, E, that A will be 0 index. Then we also talked about negative indices, which are just -1 is the last element of the list, so it just goes backwards. And range of indices, that's a thing like where we did like 1 colon or 2 colon. I mean, it's not really that practical, but sometimes you might need to use it. So yeah, conditionals. I mean, I think y'all are familiar with this, and you can do nested conditionals too. Although again, they're not as practical as regular conditionals, but sometimes again, it's all situational really. And then also we learned about Boolean and logic operators. This is just English. This is just like 5th grade math, easy stuff. I don't think I need to demonstrate any of this. Many questions about review content? Anybody at all? I'll give you like 10 seconds. Looks like there aren't any questions. We're gonna go ahead and move on. So, oops. All right, this is a good project for this time. So, Austin, congrats, and Eric, you can talk about this.
Good job, Austin, with your project. Like you did everything how we wanted it, and like, yeah.
Yeah, this is a very good use of conditionals here, and also these Boolean operators. Nice taking input, storing into variables, and all. I mean, we looked at all the projects and they were all good. But we just chose Austin's because it was really neat and it worked. And yeah, it was a hard decision though. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So warm-up, right? I don't usually do warm-up, so this is a really good way to connect what we did last time with what we're doing this time. So remember last time the project, right? I mean, yeah, for the people who did the project. So the project was how the user input 5 passwords, and if the 6th one is not or is one of the inputted passwords, you're gonna print successful, and if it's not, then you're gonna print try again, and then have them input it again. So the question I'm gonna pose here is, how can we improve last week's project so it can take any number of passwords instead of 5, right? Because let's say whoever's trying to like guess the password wants to do infinite amount of times, like until he literally just dies, right? Like there can't be a hard coded limit. It can't be like max can't be like range 0 to 100 or something. It has to be infinite. So how would we make it so that like it's iterable? It can loop. Hence the name loop. There you go, Siraj. Yeah, you use a loop. Now, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to learn about loops, and I'm sure probably most of you guys already know about this, but again, I understand if some of you guys don't understand loops that well. in that case, again, you guys can always stop us and ask questions. So we're gonna go and learn about loops today.
So, like, what are loops in programming? Like, they're one of like the most important concepts in programming because they allow you to like repeat stuff infinitely or for a specific amount of time without like having to type like, let's say, print over and over again. Then like why we use them? Like we can use them to shorten our code. We can make it a dynamic program, and we can also like make some tasks that are like not possible to do with loops. So like if you guys look at the picture in the bottom left, that's an example of a for loop, and it essentially runs everything inside the statement, the loop, for a specific amount of times. It could be like infinite, or it could be like for a set amount of times. And yeah, so you wouldn't have to type it like 10 times to like get it to run.
Yeah, don't worry about the syntax for now. We'll get into that soon. So yeah, as Eric said, again, loops just repeat stuff, and think of it as like a little box, and then this is indented, right? And in Python, indentation is very important. So if you mess up the indentation, you mess up your code. And you see how this is like all like inside of this loop, right? It's all indented inside. It's like a nice package. So this is gonna. Who wants to take a guess at how many times this will run? This loop. Hint, hint. Look at the range.
Anyone?
What is this? Zero participation.
Siraj said 10 times.
I think it's 9 times, right? 1, 2, 3,
No, 10.
4, 5,
Starts
6,
at 0.
7, 8.
Wait, starts at 1. It's 9.
Yeah, it starts at 1 and then ends at 9. So 9. Close. Yeah, 9 times. So we're gonna go ahead and get into syntax. So for loops are one of 2 loops in Python, and obviously the other one's while loops. I'm sure you guys heard of it. So for loops, they run for a specified amount of time. So as in, you can set how many times it loops, as in like how many times it repeats the code. So syntax for a for loop is for I in range 0 to 5. And I'll dissect this right now. So for and in, right? These are keywords. So which means that loops, for loops, they have to have them. So don't really worry about like what these like mean like computer wise. I don't even know. But just make sure like whenever you're declaring loops, you just have them. And I is what we call an iterator, which we'll go over in the next slide, I think. Yeah, but this is basically we'll explain this later. The range function is commonly used in for loops. So this basically, takes starting from 0 and it ends at 4. So again, 1 before the second number, so it's gonna go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's gonna stop. And then, how many times do you guys think this loop will run? Wow, very hard question. Especially because I just said it out loud. Anybody have any answers? Please take a guess. Let's not waste time, guys.
Five.
Okay, good job, Eric. Wow, it's 5 times. Because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's how many times this loop will run. And next slide, we're gonna dissect what this iterator is, and then once you understand this iterator, everything will come together. So these are iterators. So you see this little I here, and I know it might be confusing, but this is very, very convenient. So an iterator is basically a variable used to go through a loop, right? You guys all know what a variable is, right? It's like a little container for like an integer or something. So think of this iterator value as just a regular variable. It's literally just a regular variable. You can use it as a variable. You can it's literally just a variable. And it can also be anything, right? A variable name can be such as I underscore, var, num, anything. I personally prefer to use I. I know some programmers prefer to use underscore because it looks neat. I don't know why. You can use like the word var. You can use the word num. You can use a word like apples. You can use a word Eric bad, or you can just use literally anything as long as it you can type it as a variable name. You can't do something like star because you can't make that one a variable name. So yeah, and then this is gonna be the hard part. So make sure you pay attention here. So for every iteration of the for loop, right, this iterator value is gonna be increased by 1, right? So that means every time you run this, I is +1. So in the first iteration, we start off because this range function, right? So we start off at 0. So currently I is 0, and then we print I, so it prints 0 here, as you can see in the debug console. And then we loop it again, right? Because the next range value exists. So the next range value is 1. And because of that, I increases by 1, so it's gonna be 1. And then it does that again, 2, 3, 4. And then after it prints 4, it checks is I in range 0 to 5, and I is 5 currently, right? And no, it's out of range 0 to 5, so we're just not gonna print it, and it just terminates right there. So yeah, the for loop terminates when the iterator has gone through all the items given in the in keyword. So think of in as like English in, like as long as it's in this certain range, or I guess we're gonna also talk about iterable values. Like you can iterate through list, you can iterate through strings, so or ranges. So as long as it's in this thing, like it's not out of bounds, you're gonna always just loop through it. That's what for loops do. And iterators can be, again, be used like regular variables, inside and outside of the loop. So, as always, we're gonna go ahead and show you guys some examples. So, all right. So, we're gonna just make a simple for loop, right? We're gonna do for I, or just to demonstrate, you can use literally anything. I'm just gonna use for bananas in, and let's do a range function. 0 to 5, right? How many times will this loop run, guys? Can somebody type in the chat, please? Participate. I don't want to waste time. Please do it. How many times will this loop run? Right, 5 times. There you go. Correct. And then we're just gonna do simple, just print bananas. Right, we're just gonna print bananas. That's all we're gonna do. So what do you guys think this will print? Like predict the outcome of the code. Right, so this banana is it's gonna become 0 the first time, and the next iteration, or iteration just means the next occurrence of the loop. The next time it's gonna become 1. The next time it's gonna become 2. So, what do you think this will print? Participation. Banana printed 5 times.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Andrew's right. So it's gonna do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And Amnar's technically right, but it's not gonna print like quote unquote bananas. It's gonna print what bananas is, right? So we're gonna go ahead and run this. It's gonna do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's because bananas, the first time when you run it, it's 0, because that's what happens, right? And let me actually write it down. So again, hashtag is how you comment in Python. No, that's not what I do. Okay, so the first thing is gonna so bananas in the first iteration, I spelled that wrong. In the first iteration, it's gonna be set to 0, right? Because it starts at 0. That's the range. And then bananas in the next iteration, so after we print it, right, it's gonna become 1, because we printed the banana, which is currently 0, so we print 0. Because remember, it's like a variable, right? And look, if you just wanted to print bananas, we just do this, and I think that'll still work. It'll just print bananas 5 times. Yeah. But remember, because the quotes mean that it's a string. If you don't do the quotes, it means it's a variable. So we're looking at this variable, or the iterator, as we call it. And in the first loop, right, the iterator, the variable, is going to be equal to 0, because that's what we set it at. And then the next time it's equal to 1. And then obviously the third time, what's banana is going to be equal to? Somebody just in the chat. It should be super easy, honestly. Yeah, 2. Next iteration, it's just going to be 2. And that's how these iterators work, right? They're literally just like variables. And just to prove that they're literally just variables, I'm just gonna, like, this is outside the for loop, right? You can see they're on this for loop and this print, they're on the same indentation level, which means that this is outside of the for loop. So this is not gonna run within that. So again, this is Python. We don't have we don't have curly brackets. It's all colons and indentations, which makes the code look neater. I'm just gonna go ahead and print bananas, right? And this is like, again, it will give us an error if bananas wasn't a variable. But I'm just trying to prove that bananas is a variable. So it should print 4 2 times, right? Because all of this came from the loop, and this is a result of this print statement right here. So that's how iterators work. And if we were to change this to, like, let's say 2 to like 10, it's gonna start at 2 and end at 9, right? It's literally just like a variable.
Yeah, can't you also have it like increase by not just 1, and then you can
manually do that. So you can also, in here again, it's a variable, so you can just do bananas plus equals 1, and then I think what that would do is, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, you should be able to manually increase them. I don't know why that's not working. I mean, I don't really, never had a use to do that, but let's see. We can do a print statement to do bananas and bananas plus, or let me actually type past bananas. Let me see what the variable type is. Should be an integer, right? Yeah, it's an integer. So.
Whatever. Let's move on.
No. Give me a second. Bananas. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Oh, I think I know why. Yeah. You see, because when you use a range function, it's just gonna, it doesn't matter, right? Like, no matter, like, if we increase it here, it's just gonna be set to 3 next time in the next run. So I don't really know how you would, I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but I'm sure you can get it by searching it up, but I just never, I've been programming for a year now, and I never had to use, like, you know, loops that skip things. I mean, you can manually do it using, like, other things we're going to teach later. But again, in the first iteration, it's just going to be 2. And next is going to be 3, right? And even if we, like, increased it, like, by 1, so let's say, like, after this line, bananas becomes 3. In here, we're just going to define it as 3 again. So it's just going to stay like that. So, yeah. I mean, we can even do, like, 100. And, like, whoops. I should probably get rid of that. Yeah, and then it just returns to the regular value because of this range function. So, any questions so far? No questions? I remember asking a ton of questions when I first learned about loops. We'll give you guys like 10 more seconds to ask a question. Alright, looks like nobody has a question, so we're gonna go ahead and move on.
So the next kind of loop is while loop, and it's like while loops are a bit different from for loops because they don't run like in range or something. They run like with a condition. So as long as this condition is true, it runs. So like you can have a while loop run infinitely, but like just make sure you check your condition because you usually don't want it to run infinitely. And then the syntax for while loops are just while, and then you put your condition. Like the condition could be like if x is less than 5, or if true, or if y equals 1, or something like that. But like those are like all the, you can put like basically any condition for condition, and as long as it's true, it runs. So like if you look at this example, so as long as x is less than 5, it'll print x, and then we have an iterator down here too. x equals x plus 1, so x increases by 1 every time. So this would run for 5 times, and then it would end.
Eric, would you like to show us an example?
An example?
Yeah.
I mean, there's one. Alright.
Alright. You want to code it up and replicate it, right?
Sure.
Alright. Wait, actually, I can do it. Because I don't want to switch tabs and like have that record you doing it, so.
Alright.
I'll go ahead and demonstrate a while loop. So, you know, this concept is difficult, but you guys can learn it. So, again, it's just like a for loop. It's kind of like combination of a conditional and for loop. So the first thing is gonna be while. That's our keyword. That's what's gonna start all the loops. And then let's say true, right? Again, this part in here, the thing that goes after while, it has to evaluate to a Boolean value, right? So it can just be true, or it can be like a Boolean operator, like 1, or yeah, 1 equals 1, or true and true. But it has to like equal a Boolean. So it's like a conditional, right? It's like this is if, and then this is a Boolean, but instead it's a loop. So we're gonna do this, and then we're just gonna say print hi. So if we did this, what do you guys think will happen? Give it a yes. It's something funny that happens, actually. I think it's pretty funny. Let's make it more fun. Alright. Yeah, it's gonna print infinitely, just watch. This is funny. So yeah, it literally just prints infinitely until Replit eventually crashes, but it's not gonna crash. As you can see, the scroll thing is moving. That means it just doesn't stop. It's infinite. So why did that do that? Because this condition never became false, right? So as long as this condition is true, this loop will always like continuously run. So this condition has to be false at some point if we want it to be functional. So let's go ahead and make a variable, right? Let's make an integer variable. We're gonna call it num. Let's set it equal to like 5, okay? And then we'll do while num is greater than 0. So again, this thing evaluates to a Boolean because we have this greater than sign, right? So in the first iteration, is 5 greater than 0? Yes. So it'll run the first iteration. And then if we did this, guys, right? What will happen? How many times will this loop run? Any ideas? Yeah, Siraj is right. It was a trick question. It still runs infinitely because we didn't do crap about this num, right? We have to actually change this num value because if we just keep it at 5, it's not going to change. This is always true regardless. So how would I fix this so that it only runs 5 times like we intended it to? What can I do to this loop or this section in the code here to make it run like only 5 times? Any suggestions? Yeah. Bro, Siraj is on fire here. Okay, so we're going to do num minus equals 1. And that's basically going to say every time you run this loop, right, it's going to subtract 1 from whatever num is. So the second iteration is going to become 4. Third iteration is it's going to become 3, and so on. So we're going to run this. And it prints 5 times. Right? So this is good when you want something to run like infinitely until something happens, right? Like one of the projects that I did with Python is like a game, like a life simulator. So like this is gonna be a really simple version of how I do it. So let's say let's just do while, or let's call it, let's make a variable. It's gonna be called alive, and then I'm gonna call it true. And then let's make a while loop. While you're alive, right? Because you're not gonna be able to do anything when you're dead. So while you're alive, right? Let's take an integer input. So let's do status. It's gonna be your variable name equals input. Do you want to die? And then yeah, Uh-oh, it's not letting me close the string. It's okay. So that's going to take our input. You guys should all know what that does. And then we're going to pass in a conditional. So if status equals yes, right? If they want to die, then what we're going to do is set alive equal to false. And then and then we're gonna do elif, which is like the if that didn't work, and try this one. So if status equals no, as in they don't want to die, then we're just gonna do we'll do continue, or actually that's too complicated. We'll teach you guys that soon. We'll do alive equals true because you're staying alive, and then else. So when will this else ever run? Any ideas? When does this else statement run? No ideas. Should be pretty easy. Just look at the conditional. Yeah, Austin, you're right. So if they didn't put in yes or no, yeah, Siraj is also right. Yeah, if they didn't put in yes or no, that's the only two things we check for. That's when the else is gonna run. So we're just gonna say print no you, okay, because you didn't do it right, and then it's just gonna run again. So in this little simple paren that we wrote, right, we start the while loop and it starts as true, so it's gonna run, right, and then we take the input with the variable status. Do you want to die? And let's say they put in like some random like 9 cat or something, right? Then the else is gonna run and it's gonna say print no you. And it's gonna run again. And it's gonna ask, do you want to die? And then let's say you type in no, right? Then it checks. Is it yes? It's not. So you move on. Is it no? Then yeah. So we're gonna set alive to true, and then obviously the else doesn't run because the elif was true. And then we go back to the top. And is alive still true? Yes. Then you run, and then like let's say we type in no, or yes, I want to die. Then you check status equal to yes, and the alive is false. And none of these run because the if statement was true. And then it goes back to this while. So while alive, right? But at this point, because we set alive to false, this thing will not run. So it'll just stop right there. So I'm gonna run it and show you guys. It's pretty cool. Do you want to die? I'm gonna say this. No you. It's not the right thing. It's not. Do you want to die? No. So it's just asking if I want to die. No. And then if I type yes, I want to die, it's gonna stop because I died. Right. This is a very simple program, and because we know how to use loops now, we can do so many more complicated things. Like this, just like triples, quadruples, quintuples your like Python extent like knowledge. Like you can do so many things with loops. So that's how you use while loops. And for loops are the same thing, but you just predefine like how many times you can run. And sometimes for loops are more convenient than while loops, just because like it has a danger of not running infinitely, and like it's just cleaner. But sometimes while loops are necessary. I find myself using for loops more often, but while loops sometimes you don't want to use them too. So we're gonna move on now. Iterable data types. So this is where you can actually start applying loops to like your code. Loops can be used to iterate, which means go through different data types. So common iterable data types. I mean, obviously there are more, but these are two that we're concerned for right now. So lists, which we did last time, this thing, and strings, which we learned the first day. So actually, my throat's getting sore. So Eric, can you explain this example, Eric? My throat's getting sore.
It's like in this example, we have two variables. One is a list. One is just a string. And then, so we have two loops right now, for I and list. So you're actually allowed to use a list as a range. So if you do for I an example list, and this list would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll actually print out just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for you. Because I actually starts at 0, and then 0 corresponds to 1 in the list. So it would print out 1, and then it would keep printing until it prints out 5. And then in this second example, for I, an example string. So I is actually in range of this string. The string is called Eric Big Bad. And then it'll print out like every letter of Eric Big Bad out for you. That's essentially like what listen string variable data types does.
Yeah, so as you can see, the debug console to the right, it's obviously right there. And I'll show you guys like in a real life example. I mean, this is kind of stupid, but so here we have 5 cards, right? We have 5 playing cards. And like basically, let's consider this as a list, right? So this is a list of cards, right? So let's see in our list we have 3 of hearts, Jack of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, and 7 of clubs. All right, let's say this is our list, right? And these are all like string values. So we're gonna do for I in, let's call this card list or something, right? We're gonna do for I in card list, or you can do for underscoring card list, or for like num in card list, or for you can do for card in card list, then make it like a good variable. And then you can do print card or something, right? Then the first time, let's say this is the first one and that's the last one. So the first iteration, card is gonna visit this one. So it's gonna print 7 of clubs. It's gonna pass that and it's gonna go to the next one. It's gonna print whatever that is. I'm not gonna look at that. And then it prints whatever this is, and then I visits this, prints that, and then it visits this and it prints that. So it's a pretty simple concept. You can also do this with strings. These are letters. Let's say this is like what's a 5-letter word? Super, okay? S-U-P-E-R, okay? It'll visit this first, S, prints S, visits this, prints U, visits this, prints P, visits this, prints E, visits this, and then prints R. So that's how you can iterate through different data types. And this is where it gets pretty useful when you want to do stuff with, when you want to actually do like fun things with lists or fun things with strings, right? It's very practical. So, yeah. Oh, whoops. And then Eric.
And so next thing we're gonna talk about is continues and breaks. They're not really like applicable, but like it's just good to know because in some cases you might actually need to use them. But so continues basically allow you to skip part of a loop, and then breaks allows you to stop like when you want it to. And so if you look at this example, the first one is for I in range 1 through 10, and then we use a break here. So like if I equals 5, it breaks, which means like it stops the loop. So like it'll print out 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at 5, I equals 5, so it just stops the entire loop and it ends. And then continues is a bit different. So like if you look at the example for I in range 1 through 5, so if I equals 2, it actually continues. So it skips over 2, so it doesn't print it out. So it prints out like 1, 3, 4, 5. And that's basically what continue does.
Yeah, they're very similar, but continue, instead of just like completely canceling the loop, it just goes on to the next iteration without like just ignoring all the code below it. So as soon as the loop meets a break, it's just gonna stop, like no question. Like as soon as it reads this, it just stops. Nothing else runs. But for continue, as soon as it reads it, it's kind of like a break where it stops, but then you just still move on to the next iteration. So this is something helpful to know. You don't need it all the time. It's just something you might want to know. And we're already done, guys. Wow, that was fast. Okay, so hopefully you guys understood all of that. If you guys have questions, we have plenty of time, so you guys can feel free to ask. And this class was pretty short because we thought you guys would have a lot of questions, but you guys didn't. So, so these are our homeworks, and they're gonna be a little more difficult this time because now we know how to use loops, conditionals, and like everything. So that's pretty much all you need to know for basic Python. Like that's like my 13-week course of Python, and like what was like 4th week, 3rd week. So yeah. These are our homework assignments. So the first one is take user inputs until the word stop is entered. Well, yeah, Siraj, I feel that, yeah. So you're gonna just go ahead and take user inputs until the word stop is entered. And once the user input stop, you're gonna just print out the number of user inputs. So let's say I enter like dog, and then cat, and then phone, and then eraser, right? And then that's 4 times. And then I print out stop. So it's gonna be dog, cat, what was it? Eraser, and I forgot, whatever. Pencil, sure. So 4 times, right? And then you type stop. So you're gonna print out 4 because that was the number of user inputs until stop. So hopefully everybody got that pretty easy. That's a combination using conditionals and loops. And oftentimes conditionals are used with loops because it just works like that, and like all the actual like code stuff, that's how you do it. So second homework assignment is have the program generate a random number between 0 and 10, right? And random numbers, I actually have to show you guys how to do this one. So yeah, I mean, I'll show you guys later, but you have to first generate a random number between 0 and 10. Then it's like the similar thing to the password. User has 5 tries, right, to guess the random number. If the user guessed the number, print correct and stop the program. And if they don't after 5 tries, then you just print no. So obviously this is going to involve like a for loop and random number generation, which I'll tell you guys how to do after I go over all the homework and projects. Third one is have a user input 11 integers, right? I know it's a weird number, but hang in there. So after the user is done inputting all the integers, right? Print out all the integers that are greater than the first integer. So this one's a little harder. You have to know how to use conditionals, lists, and loops. So if you can do this and submit it in our in our form, we'll be very, very happy with it. This is like project level, but like it's homework because I mean, if me and Eric were, I mean, I don't know about Eric, but if I were to do it, I'll probably be able to code this in like 5 minutes. But yeah, for you guys, it's project level, and I understand that. So if you guys can't do it or have questions, type in the chat, Discord chat. But let me explain what this is. So the first number is gonna be a special number, right? Let's say I need to first input 4, and after that, let's say I input a bunch of random numbers, like 10 random numbers. After that, then after the user is done doing 10 numbers, then you're gonna print out all the integers after that 4 that was greater than 4, right? So hopefully you guys understand that. And then before I do the project, I want to show you guys how to do random numbers. So if you guys did comp-sci principles, you guys don't know what this is, but there's a thing. I don't know why Replit is being bad right now. Give me a second. So there's a thing called importing in Python, and if you did Java before, you know what importing is. You do that all the time. You can't even run most of Java without importing anything. But yeah, Python imports really simple. So for random number generation, we're just gonna basically here's how you import stuff. This is very important if you're gonna do the homework. So watch. It's import, and then you're gonna import random. So that's gonna be our library that we're importing. So think of this as like another package from the internet, but it's not from the internet. I mean, it is something from the internet, but it's from Python. So you're gonna import this package called random, and now you can use everything that random has. And it's giving me this error because we didn't use it yet, but we're gonna just see. So how this thing works, I'm looking up my old project. So let's make a variable called random number or random num, and we're gonna make it equal to random dot random. So what this is gonna do is gonna generate a random number between 0 and 1. That's very important to know. 0 and 1, it's gonna generate a float value that's between 0 and 1. And then let's just print random num and see what we get. So our random number this time was 0.334806. Yeah, okay. So that's a random number. And if we do it again, it's gonna be different because it's gonna generate a new random number, which is that. And we're gonna do it again, and again, and again, and again. So as you can see here, that's how you generate random numbers. And you can even do this in a loop too, right? If I do for I in range 0 to 5, and then I can do random num equals random dot random. So it's gonna reassign it to a random value, and then it's gonna print random num again. So what that'll do is it'll print 6 random numbers. like that. And if you guys want to make this like a integer value, right? Right, like if you want to make this like I don't know, like 2988199, then all you need to really do is before you do the print, right? You just do random num times 10 to shift the decimals, times equals 10 to shift the decimals, and then you're just gonna typecast it. And then I think that would work. I think, yeah, that should work. Yay, it worked. Don't worry about this, it's just this print. But yeah, you guys can see here, it generated random numbers. So again, this is gonna be put on YouTube, so I don't expect you guys to like memorize this, but yeah, you can always refer back to our YouTube video. And please subscribe. We have like 3 subscribers. We need more. Come on. And but yeah, that's how you generate random numbers and make them into integers. And you probably need that for yeah, you need this for the generate random number between 0 and 10. You can just use this thing that we did. So yeah, that's how you generate random numbers. And we're gonna talk more about importing in the future. So next class actually is gonna be we're gonna learn like a few more things like dictionaries and like another thing. What was the other thing that we're gonna do, Eric? Do you remember?
No.
I'll figure it out. But yeah, we're gonna do like 2 more things, and we're gonna do like a review because the week after next week is gonna be like a midterm, right? So we're gonna basically quiz you guys on stuff, like maybe give you guys like 3 like project level assignments and have you code it up. So yeah, study for that. That's gonna be coming in 2 weeks. The stuff that we're gonna do next week, I don't think we're gonna be putting it on our midterm, but that's just like convenience. Just know it, like. So yeah, this is probably all you need to know for the midterm. So start studying, guys, and start like practicing messing around with code. Really learning Python and importing. Yeah, Python starts to get really, really, really fun when you start importing stuff. So yeah, and the project here is gonna be a life simulator. So this is gonna be like one of the only cool things you're ever gonna do up till this point. So you're basically gonna literally just create a life simulator, right? In which the user can input words to control the simulation. But obviously the user starts at age 0, and then the user can input age, right? So they can type in age in the debug console to age by 1 year and gain $50 at the same time. So you're gonna need an integer value for the amount of money they have and like a string value, or not another integer value for their age. And then the user can type my age into the debug console to get his or her current age. And finally, the user can type money to see how much money he or she has. And every time the user ages, they actually have a 2% chance to die. And again, this can be done using a random number generator. We can generate a random number between like 0 and like 100, right? And you guys should know how to do that because all you have to do, right, to generate a random number between 0 and 100, multiply this by 100, I think. Is that all you need to do? Yeah. And there you go. That's how you generate a number between 0 and 100. Just do that in 2%, right? That's like 1 and 2. So like be like if that generated thing is 1 or 2, then they die. Okay, they die, and then the simulation terminates once the user dies. So basically, yes, we're just gonna have they can either input age, my age, or money, and that's gonna be like the 3 things they can do. And you can also feel free to add any other cool functionalities, like you can add like a thing where you type spend in like an integer value and you can spend that money. But we're not gonna require that because it gets too complicated. But if you do that, you might end up on our good project slide. So if you want to flex on everybody, then you can go ahead and do that. So I mean, I'll just explain briefly again. So basically, it's gonna be like if you type age in here, they're just gonna age. It's gonna get an error because this program is not the life program. But if they use type age, they're gonna age. If they type my age, this should print out their current age. And if you print in money, that should print out their current amount of money they have. So hopefully that was straightforward. And obviously we're gonna use the same forms for the same form as last week, where you guys can submit the things. Again, it's the same form, so it's gonna look the same, but that's the thing you're gonna use to submit your homeworks and projects. So again, please do them. Like me and Eric are not kidding when we say like you can't learn Python without doing projects. Like I'm serious. And before you do happy coding, I just want to show you guys some examples, right? Like I'll show you guys an example of one of the life simulators that I did for my JHGPL Python project. This is pretty simple compared to all my other Python projects, but I mean, and it's also terrible code too. Like it's not really good practice, but where is it at? Healthcare life simulator. I think it's this one. So this is a code that I wrote, right? So it's like my life simulator, but it's more complicated. So it's gonna look complicated, but it's just yeah. This is the thing I wrote. Like you can literally do this. Everything I taught you except functions, which will teach you. Oh wait, I think that was no functions is after the midterm. We'll teach you that after the midterm, but this is just simple stuff. And honestly, like yeah, you can run this, right? And welcome to life. You're currently a 19-year-old human human who wants to live as long as possible. Tap the word age and press enter in order to progress by year. Every time you age, you'll have a chance of developing a sickness, which yes, human, which you can cure by spending money or getting over with by sacrificing health. It's like Pokemon, right? Every time you age, you'll gain 10 big bucks as your income. And if you don't input an appropriate response, the game will prompt you for one again. Good luck and type age, right? So we're gonna type age. And now you're 20. You have 50 big bucks and 10 life points. And let's type in something that's invalid, like G. It's gonna say print enter the word age. That's called input validation. It's pretty cool. Age, you're not sick, so I'm not sick. And you see how I gained like 10 big bucks because I was like, that's not my salary. Like, oh shoot, what did I just do? Well, okay, yeah, there you go. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, honestly, it's really fun in Python, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. And I mean, just to get you guys more hyped about Python, right? I'll give you guys a little. Here's the thing. I with 5 lines of code, I just made this tab. Pretty simple. Another thing is, let's see, Discord bot. Eric hates this one. Let's do new window. Oh, this is an IDE, by the way. It's not Replit. Replit's kind of, it's not good for. This is my Discord spam bot, and I would like to show you guys it running in action, but it involved me entering my Discord password, so I can't do that quite. But it's really cool, and it works really well.